recording button again. We are recording on my end as well. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You okay?
Oh, man, sounds. Greetings. Welcome to the SciFi Pubcast, the podcast that tries to be a pub, and perhaps someday a pub that tries to be a podcast. And as always, we are looking for customers to come visit our bar. So if you're passionate about something, you want to be on a podcast, well, please let us know. This bar is all about community. If you want to help us out, please consider leaving a 5-star review wherever you find the show, joining our Discord server, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Yes, that's right. That's our intro. I'm Joel. I haven't changed the intro in, I don't know, maybe half a dozen shows, so that's good. I'm the so-called owner of the SciFi Pubcast, so to speak, and today we have two of our dedicated staff members. We have Carrie Simpson and Derek Beebe. How you guys doing? Hey!
Hi!
Hey, happy Easter, happy spring, whatever it is right now. Yes, the warm weather is coming out in the northern half of the hemisphere, of course. So there's that.
Not here.
Oh, God.
It actually snowed on April 1st.
There you go. Well, I'm in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada currently. I won't be forever, as in the next show I'll probably be my new location, my new home, so to speak, London, Ontario. But I'm still recording from Ottawa, and it's a high of like 14 degrees Celsius, which is, I don't know, it's like 65 Fahrenheit, something like that. So for Canada...
Wait, it's colder in LA. No, never mind. It's 70 degrees here.
Yes. So, Carrie from Los Angeles, Southern California, how you doing? What's happening?
I'm doing good. Not much. I'm just, as I was telling you before we started recording, I debated, cracking up a bottle of wine, but I realized I actually had some stuff I wanted to do after the show, and if I finish a bottle of wine while we're recording, that's not going to happen.
I see you've learned your lesson the last dozen times, or
what?
You've learned your lesson last dozen times of recording on the show and drinking a bottle of wine, and
no, there's just if I go through an entire bottle of wine, there's just not, whether we're recording or not, I'm just not going to get anything else done for the rest of the day. So
fair enough.
I might as well wait until after I'm done.
I have one on standby just in case the mood strikes me, but I'm drinking tea.
Nice.
And of course, we have Derek Beebe, our resident, how would you put it? Interesting fellow who
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, sure. From the Great Wilds of Pennsylvania. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, and I am celebrating the resurrection this weekend. The resurrection of the Star Wars Vintage Collection on Disney Plus. We got the Star Wars micro series. We got the Boba Fett cartoon from the holiday special. We got both Ewok TV movies and the Ewoks cartoon, which I have never seen in my life.
Wow!
And apparently,
it's not great,
Droids is coming later. Apparently, Droids is coming later this month because apparently
I think it's later in the year.
In the year, because apparently, Droids wasn't important enough to include with the rest of the retrospect.
Ooh. I remember watching Droids as when it came out. I think I was my late teens. I don't know. I'm losing my memory. I'm an old guy nowadays. Not too old, but still, the memories. I get always nostalgic in old age.
Yeah, it's weird because I think I always loved Star Wars as a kid, but I never saw the Droids or the Ewoks cartoons. I didn't even know they existed as a kid.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. Wow.
I did. I watched them regularly on Saturdays until they disappeared.
Yeah.
I definitely have childhood memories of the Ewok TV movies, though. Even though I haven't seen them in a long time, when I play them, they're oddly familiar, even though I don't actually remember them, because I must have had them on VHS tape because I must have seen them over and over again as a kid.
I had them. I watched them when they dropped originally. And then we taped them. I think we taped them the nights they aired, and those were tapes I also wore out, when I got tired of the actual trilogy.
Yes, when Lucasfilm was doing very well and affecting children in a positive way with their storytelling.
Aren't they still doing that?
Yeah, but just we're not the kids anymore. That's the thing. We're adults.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
Right, but
And
this
I recommend everybody go out and watch the micro series by Jendi Tartovsky. It's very over the top and crazy, but it is so much fun. I watched them all already this weekend, and that is just pure Star Wars.
yeah.
I
Star Wars
mean
on crack.
that's what introduced us to Asajj Ventress, among
And
other
Grievous.
things. And Grievous.
Yeah.
I think Asajj was actually introduced in the comic books, and then they used her in the show. But Grievous's first appearance anywhere was in the Clone Wars series, just as Boba Fett's first appearance was in the holiday special, the cartoon of which they put up on Disney Plus this weekend.
Wicked. But this is
We're not talking about Star Wars this weekend.
yeah, guys. I know that's so wizard, and it is. But we
I
are
used a resurrection theme.
Yeah, no. We are a pub, and of course, we are in business, so to speak. Not to actually make money because there's tax implications, but as a hobby podcast, we're definitely in business. So, Derek, since you're a cook, I got to ask you, man, how's our kitchen doing?
Well, speaking of resurrections, there is this weird thing. It's in the sink where I wash all the food dishes. It's this black gooey mold stuff, and no matter how many times I scrub it and get it away, it keeps coming back. It keeps resurrecting. And I don't know if this is normal, but when I put bleach on it, it makes this faint screaming sound. Is that normal?
Yeah. You may want to
Did
call
Beta
this.
move into the kitchen sink?
Well, anyway, if you ever see any little pieces of black stuff on the plates and the food dishes and stuff, don't worry about it. You won't taste it.
Great. Just please don't call the city over this and ask them. Okay. I know. Google it, perhaps, but yeah. Eesh.
On privacy mode.
Privacy mode. There you go. Well, let's see. My update. I'm doing a major life change. I may have mentioned it on previous shows. I'm currently unemployed right now. I've quit my former job, which was working for the government as an RCMP officer with broken service for the last 15 years. I pulled my pension out after 15 at the rank of sergeant. Now I'm moving down to London, Ontario in order to pursue a PhD in law at the University of Western Ontario, otherwise known as Western University. So big changes. So I'm in complete moving and prep mode right now. So
Very cool.
I'll miss Ottawa. I've been in Ottawa since July 2016. I've made lots and lots of friends, of course, and I'll miss them, but I'll be back. So there's that. But that's my update. Space zombies. No, this show is more about resurrections than space zombies. Well, I just want to say space zombies.
I can't think why we came up with that topic for this weekend.
No. But there are many names for what we are going to be talking about today. The Lazarus trope, the undead, or simply character resurrection. Not to be confused with the Alien movie, right? But when characters are brought back from the dead after dying, is it good storytelling? Does it breathe new life into the story? Pun intended. Or is there a price to be paid, like I don't know, monkey's paw style? Like, did we mention space zombies yet? There's always consequences, unintended consequences.
Or is it just a trope of the franchise? Because as I'm looking through this list, I noticed you don't have Dr. Daniel Jackson on this list, and including the movie and the TV show and Stargate SG-1, he's been killed and gotten better at least 12 times.
Yeah, I missed some. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My knowledge base is very limited in the sense that I can only remember the shows I saw and do some research online.
That is true. That's true. I'm not gonna hold it against you.
Okay, so Stargate, yeah. So Stargate, it's filmed in Vancouver. It was filmed, right? There's 3 different spin-offs, right? Or 2 different spin-offs in the main show.
There was the original movie,
all right,
in which Daniel died and got better. And they kind of made that a bit of a running joke. Like, he got killed at least once a season, I think.
So how did he come back? Was he like kind of like like Kenny from South Park? Kenny McCormick, who just shows up in the next episode without any explanation?
No, couple of times there was a sarcophagus, which was what was keeping the gold alive.
Okay.
Apparently apparently human bodies are very prone to being resurrected. So, they can they threw him in the sarcophagus a couple of times, and he got better. A couple of times he got resurrected by, I think he got resurrected by the Nox once. There were a couple of times where it was like an alternate timeline type thing, where the timeline vanished and we got the original Daniel back and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's odd because you think about that, right? We all have our favorite characters when we watch our content, right? Either TV, movies, through novels, podcasting, whatever, any narrative, right? Okay. And sometimes in order to increase the stakes and get the emotional punch, the writer or the writers, they kill off characters people love. And then, of course, they sometimes bring these characters back. It's, the whole back from the dead trope, TV trope, right? Or story trope. And I think sometimes it's great. Sometimes it just makes you groan because it's just, not again. And then it becomes a parody because it's a standard joke because the character gets killed so many times, right? I think that's what Kenny from South Park was trying to get at. There we go. But
it's a very fine line to walk because obviously it's the maximum dramatic impact to kill off a major character, but then you lost that character for the rest of your run. So, if it's a long-running show, you may end up bringing that character back, but then that lessens the death. And if you do choose to do that, there really does need to be consequences for it that last a long time. And it's definitely not something you can do over and over again. It's really, you only can pull that trick once or twice in a show where it gets silly. I mean, Stargate definitely overdid it with the sarcophagus stuff. And obviously in comic books, this stuff happens left and right to the point where, when someone dies, like everyone knows he's coming back. Like I remember in Final Crisis when the Martian Manhunter was killed, at his funeral, Superman basically said, "And we'll pray for a resurrection." Like they all knew it was just going to happen eventually anyway.
Well, I think Jean Grey holds the record for how many times she's been killed off in the comics.
Yeah.
And gotten better.
Yeah.
So, Derek, off mic, you were saying about the developments in the comic book world, about the people or characters being killed off. What's that all about?
So currently in the X-Men comic books, which have been rebooted and reimagined by Jonathan Hickman, who is an amazing writer, the X-Men live on the mutant island of Krakoa. And by 5 mutants working together and combining their different mutant abilities as one, they're able to resurrect mutants. So basically what happens is everybody goes to Xavier to do like a backup copy of their mind, and then he stores them in Cerebro, and then these 5 are able to create a new body that Xavier is able to put that mind into. So now in the X-Men comic books right now, anybody can die at any time, and they'll just get reborn in a new body, and it's no big deal. Which I don't really care for myself because, again, easy resurrections, robs the story of its drama and of its stakes. But
so when these fellows get resurrected, do they change at all? Is there any consequences?
No. The only thing is that it's your memory from the last time you got backed up. So basically, if somebody's going to go on a suicide mission, they'll do a backup of their mind right before they leave. But then the person that comes back has no memory of the mission that they left and were killed on. And of course, there's the other implication. Yeah.
Sounds a bit Altered Carbon-like.
Yeah.
I have not seen that show.
It's a good show. I'm sad it got canceled on Netflix, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's probably a discussion for another time. But they had basically kind of run out the trilogy. They kind of combined the last 2 books.
Yeah.
With that, and then they started going off in a different direction, which would have been interesting. But no, in the first season, the part of the premise was like the super wealthy could like back up their minds, so that if they got killed, they would be resurrected in a new body, and their memories would be downloaded back into the new body.
Yeah, and we saw this,
and they could do that forever.
Okay, spoiler alert, and we should say that we were talking spoilers, right? Loose spoilers, that is. But
there's no spoil. That's not a spoiler.
no,
That
no, 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 no.
that's.
So I'm about to spoil something. That's why I'm going to say. I'm saying
Oh,
that.
okay.
Because
Oh.
yeah, because that's very similar to a Star Trek TV show that's out right now, right? Picard, in the last season, right?
Yes. Yes.
The whole thing is that people die all the time, but if you can morph the personality or the person's essence,
Yeah.
soul, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call that, yeah, they can just back it up on a disc, so to speak.
Didn't they do well? I mean, did they do something similar in Dune?
In Dune, what?
In Dune, with Duncan Idaho, they brought him. They
They
killed him.
cloned
They
him
brought him
over and
back.
over and over again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the novelist.
and
Yeah.
then well, no, that was in Children of Dune.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, okay, the miniseries.
They brought him back, and so that was part that was they did that they included that in the miniseries, but I think there were 2 additional books after the first 6 where they just brought back everyone because they needed the wisdom of Paul and the rest of the family to try to figure out what the heck had gone on or how to
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read those 2 yet.
I know, like, we see people get killed all the time, right? I kind of watch Doctor Who, at least the new version of it that's been out for 20 years, gone on mode now. But this Rory Williams fellow, he's been cut off how many times? It's a motif. You have characters making in-universe jokes about him, right? That he's going to come back from the dead.
Well, the ultimate Doctor Who example is Jack Harkness.
Yes.
He's immortal because of the bad wolf energy, and he gets killed over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But he gets better.
Yeah, he doesn't really die. He just, I should. Interesting, right? That's part of his mystique.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, since it is Easter, we're recording on Easter, and happy Easter, folks. But do you think Jesus of Nazareth started the whole resurrection trope in storytelling?
I don't think so. I think that's been around in mythology for a while. I think Osiris was, I want to say, a resurrection myth. I know Balder was.
Yeah, I think Odin being tied to the tree of life. Didn't he die there? I have to look that up.
Odin didn't die. He just hung on the tree for 9 days to gain wisdom. But no, Balder was killed. Well, so his brother was tricked by Loki into killing him. And then part of the Ragnarok myth is that once the final battle is over, Balder is going to get resurrected, and the children of the gods are going to reform the earth and stuff like that.
It's a powerful trope, being resurrected, right? And you see that because they set up, like lots of series, they set it up early in the storytelling, and by the end of the season or season 1, season 2, whatever, you see that happening, right? We saw that with 11 and Stranger Things. We saw that even like Tulip O'Hare in The Preacher, right? Okay, it's a motif. Yeah, sometimes bad things happen. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they come back in like a full form. Sometimes, they come back as a zombie or space zombie, or even like a vampire, who's technically are undead. So there's consequences. I know I've just finished watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the first time. Yes, I watched the first couple of seasons when it came out, but I finished the series as of yesterday. Yay! And going back to our previous point by Derek, that the stakes has to be meaningful when a character dies. Good old Agent Phil Coulson. Man,
Yes.
Avengers, he served his purpose. He united the Avengers as a team through his death to fight Loki, who was particularly a bad guy in that movie. And good old Agent Coulson paid the ultimate sacrifice, yet he came back and had a 7-season show called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And then he died in season 6 and got kind of got the Picard treatment before Picard got the treatment.
Yeah.
Well, as I recall, he died in season 5 and season 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least the actor got steady work. Okay. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Who played him
Yes.
again? God, he's been around forever. Oh God.
Oh God.
Clark Gregg.
Michael. No, Clark. Something.
Is it Michael
Clark
Clark?
Gregg. No, Clark Gregg.
Mike Clark is our friend from the Slack group. It's.
Oh God, and of course my internet is just not working right. Great, thanks for that.
Clark Gregg.
There you
Gregg.
go.
You guys don't believe me.
Great actor.
Seriously.
I wonder if
What
he's
the
going.
fuck?
I do. I'm sorry. I wonder if Coulson's going to come back in the MCU. Maybe.
I doubt it.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show has been, effectively ignored and erased from the mainline MCU continuity. So as far as the MCU world is concerned, he died in Avengers, and that was the end of it. Period.
Yeah.
The end. They're not going to bother to.
They were in an alternate timeline, so.
Multiple.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not going to bother to go through the convoluted explanations of, oh, he's been off on this TV show this whole time, or now he's a clone, or now he's a robot, or I don't know. It's a bit much.
Yeah, what's next? They're gonna bring back Darth Sidious in Star Wars, after
too late. You're a bit too
Return
late
of
for
the
that.
What happened?
You didn't see Rise of Skywalker?
Oh right, okay. I only saw it once, and I'm trying to turn much of that movie out of my brain, but still, okay.
Oh,
But again,
okay.
here we go. We had a resurrection myth, right? Darth Sidious shaved Palpatine. He came back as the big baddie for the sequels, right? And we didn't know that until the third movie of the sequel, right? Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. You think about that. That's a bad guy who came back and was resurrected.
Mm-hmm.
That is true, though. You can always just follow that example and just have a character say, somehow Palpatine has returned, and that's the end of it.
Well, and I know SWTOR isn't really considered canon anymore, but I think I said this a couple of times when after Rise of Skywalker came out, it's like, for those of us who play SWTOR a lot, we're kind of used to the idea of the Sith Lord coming back multiple times and having to kill him 2 or 3 times, and hopefully we're done with that now. But who knows?
Yeah. I just think when I think of someone being resurrected, I'm of the generation. I hate saying that but it's true. My favorite Star Trek movie is Wrath of Khan, Star Trek 2, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and spoiler alert, the movie's been out for 30, 40 years, something like that, 30 years, and Spock dies. He dies honorably, and then they had an entire new movie, Star Trek 3, for the whole search for Spock.
Yep.
That's amazing. To me, that's a meaningful way to bring a character back from the dead, is to dedicate an entire movie for that, right? The Search for Spock, 1984, Star Trek 3.
Then you had the reverse of that in Into Darkness.
Yeah. Derek?
Anyway, you were saying, Derek?
The thing that I liked about the Spock resurrection was that, like you said, it was a consequence of getting it. In order to get him back, they had to spend an entire movie doing it. They had to destroy the original Enterprise. They had to throw away all of their careers. Kirk lost his son. So, there were real and lasting consequences to doing it. And the other reason I like it is that they set it up in the movie in which he died, because he did the remember thing with McCoy in movie 2. So they left themselves the out ahead of time so that if they did decide to take it, it's all set up in advance.
Yeah, that was very good. I like that.
Just like in Star Wars, Episode 3 shows that Sidious and his master were obsessed with conquering death, and he promised Anakin that he knew how to resurrect and bring people back from the dead, so that when it happened in Episode 9, we would all accept it generously and nobody would complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was set up ahead of time.
There you go. Yeah. What you see with Spock, the example of Star Trek 3, that he started as a child and he had to go up really fast, right? It was he advanced in age rapidly, more than normal.
Well, that was all part of the side effects of David Marcus cheating.
Yeah,
when he created the Genesis wave.
Yeah, Genesis project. Yeah.
So cheating did prosper somehow, I guess.
Yeah, that's reasonable reasoning. I don't see the logic,
Maybe.
but sure. Okay. But then we have to going back to the MCU. Groot, did he really die? Or he died in the first one, but then again, part of him survived, and so he spawned another offshoot. Pun intended. Okay.
But I think they've said that the original Groot did die, and this is a new Groot.
Yeah, James Gunn said that Groot did die, and that this is a sapling left behind. So it's basically Groot's child. It's not the same person. He did actually sacrifice himself.
Okay, good. At least he's branching out. That's good.
Oh boy.
Wow. But there's others. Like going back to Star Trek. Okay, again, I'm just trying to watch the remaining episodes of Voyager. I'm on season 6 right now. There's so many episodes of Voyager. My God, they produce them so quickly, and I know they hit and miss. But in season 4, episode 12, we had Neelix, who died on the episode named Mortal Coil, right? And then he went through some angst because somehow he came back to life. I forgot the details. But it was more of a learning experience.
Well, I mean, technically, Harry Kim got killed. I think it was season 2, and they resurrected him by pulling him out of a different timeline.
Yeah, that's a cheat. That's the whole timeline thing. If you're gonna bring someone back from the dead, make sure it's magic, or it's technology, or it's divine intervention, or it's Tuesday. Something that makes that okay.
Well, it was an even exchange. His ship died. His ship in the other timeline died. So they basically kind of swapped.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. But there's.
They did punish him by never promoting him. So.
Yeah, that just cracks me up all the time.
So, secretly, they never considered him as being fully human or having a soul. So they just
Who knows?
kept him in his place.
But then you can just bring back characters and just don't explain it and leave it hanging in a mystical sense. You can see that with Starbuck on Battlestar Galactica, that reboot, right? Kira Thrice, right? Was she an angel? How did she come back from the dead? That's kind of odd. Didn't she die?
Yeah,
she did. That one I really liked. I guess I'm one of the few people who actually likes the way Galactica ended, but I thought that was a really cool ending for her because the whole time. When she first comes back, it's like, oh, okay, she went into the wormhole and she came back out. But then they find the wreckage of her ship, and then they find her actual corpse crashed on the planet. So they know for a fact that this is not the same physical person that they grew up with. And then that scene at the end where she's kind of talking with Lee, and she's like, you made it. And then he looks around and she just disappeared into thin air. I thought that was a great story choice.
Yeah, me too, because it leaves the question open. Was she resurrected, or was she a ghost, or what happened?
Was she ever really there in the first place?
Yeah, when you see the burning skeleton out of the crash fighter, right? It was a skeleton. I'm trying to remember that.
Yeah, it was like a burnt charred skeleton, like Owen and Baru.
Oh God. Yeah. So yeah, she really boned that there. But moving on. What I really like, and this is tradition because I love the old classics, right? The Mummy, or the Mummy movies. And they're not just the whole Brendan Fraser series, which I quite enjoy. It goes back to the 20s and 30s, and the whole I'm
Imhotep.
Imhotep. God, it's a classic thing. You have Boris Karloff, who played him in 1932, right? That's horror. This is what I'm getting at about consequences. Sometimes you bring people back from the dead, and it may not be the best thing to do. What do you guys think? Unwrap that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the stories where you resurrect someone and they come back as some horrible, half-human, soulless abomination. That's always fun.
And I think I'm dark.
Like I remember in the episode of Buffy when Dawn tried to use black magic to bring her mother back, and it was the way they did it was really creepy because they never actually showed her, but she did the spell and it worked. And then like on Joyce knocked on the front door, but we never saw her. And then like I think they like did the spell to undo it or something, but like you knew that some like soulish abomination version of her dead mother was on the other side of that door knocking to get in. That was creepy. And speaking of Buffy, that was another one that did a major resurrection with Buffy herself. And I think that they did a good job for it because, again, there were major consequences to it. There was basically like a whole season of Buffy suffering for having been resurrected because she was in heaven when she died, and then she was pulled back into this, brutal earth. And then also the Willow doing the resurrection spell led her down the path of darkness that led her to becoming Dark Willow. So again, it was a good one because it was consequences and it lasted a long time and it meant something.
Interesting. But we also saw, this device of resurrection being used or played with, say, in like Harry Potter, right? Okay, where it's the
Horcrux.
Yeah, and use it as a device to play with the idea of the existence of Voldemort. Yeah, I said his name, and how he can actually die or dying. It's just it's a neat. I thought that was a good device. Stakes not so much, but it was a good intellectual way to explain things. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and I mean, that was a thing. Yeah, sure.
And they definitely portrayed the Deathly Hallows as being powerful, dangerous artifacts that shouldn't be used. And actually, when in the story of the original creation of them, when the guy used the resurrection ring, I think it was to bring back his dead wife. She again came back as like some horrible soulless abomination, and I think he had to like kill her again or something. So it was actually like a curse having to do it.
Well, the whole idea behind the Horcruxes, if I remember correctly, is it requires you to kill someone, and that there's a cost to that. There's a cost to your soul in doing that. So the part of the reason Voldemort ended up looking like the way he did is because he didn't just do it once. He did 7 times.
Yeah, and just to be clear, that's a separate thing from the resurrection.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I think the most famous resurrection at least in fantasy, is Gandalf, and I'm not sure if he died or not.
That
I think
jerk.
Gandalf the Grey went to hell and died and came back as Gandalf the White.
Yeah, he set the rest of the party off while he killed the Balrog and got all the XP. Then came back with all new shit.
Yeah,
what a jerk.
It's funny because when I see resurrection tropes happening in my fiction, I should be thinking Jesus Christ. No, I'm thinking Gandalf.
Yeah, Gandalf is the gold standard. Yeah, his death scene is so beautiful and involving both in the book and in the movie. And yes, he does die for real because he does pass away and his spirit goes back to Valinor. And then I forget the name of the gods or the spirits, whatever, but they basically send him back to finish the task. And he does come back different. He's not the same person that he was when he came back. So there is a consequence to it.
Yeah. But then we have, say, Game of Thrones, right? You have 2 major characters who have a tendency to come back from the dead. We have Beric Dondarrion, who's been killed numerous times. And then we have Jon Snow, the big cliffhanger at the end of one season, and surprisingly, he came back. Who knew? He took a stab at it.
Well, if you only read the books, you don't know because he was still dead. Because George hasn't finished the series.
Yeah, exactly.
And he just signed a 5-year development deal with HBO to make more shows, so I'm sure he won't be busy.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Gotta ask what he's been doing, but I digress. God. But then again, there is a certain sense of uh, spiritualism or religious beliefs or themes at play in any resurrection trope, I think. Even when we get really technical, like you take the Matrix, right? And both Neo and Agent Smith died technically and they came back stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this idea you have to go through hell and lose yourself, which is a very Buddhist thing to do, I think, lose oneself in order to be more experienced, more stronger, more wholesome, more pure. I don't know. I'm grasping for words right now, but there's some sort of improvement happening in terms of character development.
Well, I mean, there's this thing in like Eastern philosophy of letting go of attachments, letting go of things that you. I mean, you hear it. You hear Yoda say it in episode 3. You have to let go of what things you fear to lose, because that's what's going to hold you back. Yeah. Essentially.
I think that beyond just the plot requirements of the dramatic necessity of killing people off and then occasionally the necessity of bringing them back, it does speak to a basic tenet of all religions, which is about explaining death and assuaging people's fear of death by promising that there is some kind of life afterwards, whether it be in a heaven or a hell or in a rebirth. So all these things are basically coming out of the same need that stems from the creation of religion.
Yeah,
right.
Perhaps. But eventually we'll all become stardust, so there's that. But yeah.
Yes, true.
I like the whole, like it's so common. Like, I like nautical stuff. I like pirates and oceans and sailing. And in Pirates of the Caribbean, that franchise, you have both Jack Sparrow and Hector Barbarossa, who, kind of died and came back, So it's interesting. Again, is it voodoo, black magic? Is it some sort of curse item? Lots of different devices being used to bring people back from the dead.
Yeah.
My personal favorite is when people come back from the dead in order to enact vengeance because they died horribly, right? So
I don't know what you're talking about.
Say like Ghost Rider, or my favorite is Eric Draven from The Crow. In order to wreak havoc and revenge, because hate is such a strong emotion.
Yeah, I think I wore the correct shirt for tonight.
Hey, nice. I like that one.
It even says I'm not dead yet.
Yeah. So that's it. Can you describe your shirt?
It's basically Eric Draven full of holes. Just saying that he's not dead yet.
He's not dead yet. I know. Amazing. But then we get, people who are back because for whatever reason they are trying to do the best. Like my favorite Alien Resurrection, guys. Yeah, Superman.
Oh, I thought you meant the movie Alien Resurrection.
Which version of the Resurrection are we talking about?
There's
because
so
are we talking
many.
About the original one back in the 90s, or are we talking about the Superman Doomsday movie, or are we talking about Death of Superman from a few years ago,
or Dawn of Justice, or Justice League? I know.
And Justice League.
Didn't he kind of briefly die in Superman Returns as well? Because I remember him like in the hospital room, like doing the Jesus pose.
Yeah, no, he was just
mostly dead.
He was just mostly dead. Yeah.
Oh God! Speaking of which, I love The Princess Bride. Right, the whole Billy Crystal mostly dead routine. Oh God, that still cracks me up when I watch it.
Well, I mean that is a bit of a resurrection, kind of, because the Dread Pirate Roberts keeps dying.
Yeah.
And keeps getting resurrected in a new form, so you never actually know who the real Dread Pirate Roberts was.
Yes, and that's an interesting thing, right? You can resurrect characters just by recasting. Okay,
Yeah.
Oh.
That too.
But sticking with DC, of course, if say the Crow was resurrected by some sort of mythical entity or Milieu or spirits, right? But then we have Catwoman in the Batman Returns, that movie from 1992. She took a header off a building, and a bunch of cats found her and resurrected her. Yeah, how cool is that?
And
as they do.
well, she had one life left by the end of the movie, so
Yeah.
And also, if we speak of the comic books themselves, Hawkman and Hawkwoman or Hawkgirl, they're constantly dying and resurrecting in new lives. They have this entwined reincarnation cycle between the two of them.
Yeah, there's that version. Well, there's that version of the story, and there's the version where they're just both from Thanagar. But yeah, they both work.
Yeah, it's very hard to keep Hawkman continuity straight. They're constantly rebooting him and changing.
It's hard to keep comic book continuity straight. They always, you know, as I said, you know, Jean Grey has been killed off 15 times. How many they've killed off they've killed off all of the Marvel characters at least once. I'm pretty sure they've killed off most of the DC characters at least once. So, and they always get better.
Yeah, everybody dies in comic books, and then they come back after 2 years usually.
Mm-hmm.
I like how Gotham treated it. Gotham owned resurrections, right? Because in the TV show Gotham, and it is what it is. I'm not sure it's considered canon, but it was a very fun show in my opinion. It was so watchable, and I fell in love with how zany it got. But you got Barbara Keene, you got Butch Gazine. They both came back through the Lazarus Pit method, I want to say. And then we got even like Fish Mooney came back because of the science, expertise of Hugo Strange. Okay.
Well, and if we're talking Lazarus Pit, you're missing the OG, user of the Lazarus Pit, which is Ra's al Ghul.
Absolutely, right. So I want that in my backyard. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Lazarus Pit has consequences too. It kind of makes you a bit psycho. Eventually. Especially if you're
when you first come out, you're like, roar, but then eventually you calm down.
Yeah, it's kind of like ripping the soul away from either heaven or hell to get back to our mortal coil on Earth in this existence. Yeah, there's a lot of themes going on.
Well, and that's getting back to our original, my original giving you shit for not talking about Daniel Jackson. That was kind of the thing that they discovered eventually about the sarcophagus, is that it eventually did something to the mind and to the soul, basically, if you kept using it over and over again. So it's kind of like the Lazarus Pit in that way.
It was also a great explanation for why the Goa'uld are such sociopathic monsters, because they've literally been like wasting their souls away in the sarcophagus, getting resurrected over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember me not to do that, okay?
Yeah,
I'll take the fucking youth and I'll drink that. I like to be young and healthy, but if I come back as a decrepit old zombie, not so much. Yeah. And talking about decrepit old zombies, no. So we have even the X-Files, X-Files did everything, every trope you could find in the X-Files, and eventually Fox Mulder was going to die, and eventually he's just going to come back, right? It gives a different meaning to agency. Like, that's just Fox Mulder, right?
Yeah.
And there's another one. I didn't actually watch the series, but maybe you guys can jump in. The whole Lost, J.J. Abrams' Lost. You have this John Locke fellow who died in season 4 and came back the first episode of season 5 Sunday.
I wouldn't know. Derek?
So that wasn't spoilers for Lost, but it turned out that the person that came back was not Locke. It was a bad guy just wearing his body. So the original John Locke did actually die, and then this bad guy entity took him. I forget if it took over his body or if it just made a recreation of his body. I think it was a second copy of the body. But yeah, so Locke died for real, and then they kept using the actor portraying an evil, different person.
They should have use the same trope or the same idea in an MCU TV show that recently aired on Disney Plus, WandaVision. Didn't Vision died in Endgame? Infinity
Yeah,
War?
well,
Yeah.
he died in
Infinity War?
Infinity War,
Yeah.
and we never saw him again in Endgame. But apparently, Wanda was able to resurrect him somehow.
Yeah. But
Well,
even
she made a version of him from her memories. It wasn't the original person.
But then they used her powers to resurrect the actual Vision.
Yes, they used her to spark up the old body and get it up and running again. But it was a
Yeah.
soulless. It didn't have his soul or his spirit in there. It was
Right.
just the body working on a program.
all right. So can you show me a measurement for the soul? Can we observe this empirically? That's where it gets interesting from a philosophical level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been going through a lot of old family photographs and old pictures from when I was younger, trying to reduce stuff from my move, and you gotta understand. You gotta wonder about memories and it, when will the memory die, and is that the final death, or do they live forever? Right, these memories, because it just carries on through generations. I don't know.
Well,
Generational
it
memory.
stays in the photo itself because every time you take a photo of someone, you're stealing a piece of their soul.
No, yes.
So don't get rid of those photos or burn them or anything.
Yes,
Or if you do, be sure to inhale the flames to absorb the essence and power.
yes, and that's a belief by some folks. So interesting from not just a philosophical level, but from a anthropological. I can say anthropological level. And then there's of course the situation when you suddenly, as a writer, kill off a major character, and then there's a backlash among the fan community. So that 2 episodes later, you have to bring the character back. And of course, I am talking about Brian Griffin from Family Guy. Yes, they killed the dog. Can you imagine that? They killed the dog.
I thought you were talking about Sherlock Holmes.
That was a setup. The Sherlock Holmes, Sherlock on BBC. Yeah, that was. Yeah, he never died. He's too smart for that.
And I mean the original publication by oh God, what's his name? Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah, right.
He killed off the characters because he got sick of him and wanted to write some other stuff. And there was like people were so outraged they wanted more Sherlock. So eventually he was forced to resurrect him.
Yeah, and did he explain that, if you recall? Like, he took a header off of Falls, right? So that's a motif there. But
yeah, I forget if the explanation is in the story or not. I don't remember offhand.
Yeah, so
probably was.
I think they played with that a bit. Well, not just in the series, but when the Robert Downey Jr. Movies in the second one, they played with the whole he fell off right back falls, and then did he get better? Maybe.
Yeah, he had a swimming good time.
Yes.
I actually really like the way that movie did that. I need to watch that movie again. I thought it was really cool because like it kind of showed him like going through in his head like if they fought, who would win, and he basically went through all the permutations and realized that he couldn't defeat Moriarty, so he just grabbed him and went over the falls to take them both out. That was cool.
I like that. But going back to our theme about having consequences with death, right? Like, it gave birth to a lot of different other tropes, like zombies. Yeah, zombies in space. And quite frankly, I think we need more zombies in space because there's not a lot of names out there. I found we got Astro Zombies from 1968, that film. We have Space Zombie from Plan 9 from Outer Space from 1959, which we've covered in a previous show of the SciFi Pubcast. There's a really bad movie from 2012 called Zombies from Outer Space. And there's a game, which is a patch for Call of Duty called Zombies in Spaceland. Who knew? That's it.
I have another one.
Go ahead.
There was a very popular horror trilogy of video games called Dead Space that I played. They're about 10 years old. And it's basically it's very alien influenced, but it is about people becoming killer zombies, and they kind of mutate into these horrible, monstrous forms and try to kill you.
Yeah, that's the other thing. When you come back from the dead, is it voluntary? Like, do you voluntarily become alive again, or is it thrust upon you, right? And do you really want to come back to be among the living? And I think zombies is why it shows that it's not good to use the undead. And you see that in science fiction. Star Wars novels from 2009, 2010, Death Troopers and Red Harvest. They were pretty good books, right? I haven't read them, but I know they were quite well received.
I love Death Troopers. That is such a well-written novel. It is so legitimately creepy. It is excellent. I love it.
Yes, and the author of that is Joe Schreiber. So
yes, and I actually love that book so much. I went down and tracked all the other books that he's written. He wrote a supernatural tie-in novel, and he wrote a bunch of original horror novels that I've read, and that's like the only non-Stephen King horror I've ever read, just because I loved that book so much and I wanted more from him.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Let me ask you this, because we're been talking for a while now, so we'll be closing our doors fairly shortly. But if there was one character from science fiction that you have come back as a zombie, what character would you like to see zombified? Carrie, you go first.
I don't know. But considering I prefer my undead to have liquid diets and not eat brains, I don't know. I still don't know.
Fair enough. Derek, any ideas?
When you say zombie, do you mean they're not themselves? They're just like a mindless eating machine?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, what's the fun in that?
No, because it would be in the service of storytelling to the story, right? Okay, have a new story.
I mean, if we're talking about space zombies, though, you forgot the most recent example of space zombies, which is The Expanse.
Ah, right, yes.
Since we've already jumped on the spoiler train, I mean, the last book, Amos is basically a zombie now.
Yeah, basically, but he's more wits about him than a typical zombie.
Yeah. Well, that's because the proto-molecules learned how to bring people back and not and keep their minds intact.
Yeah,
I guess.
Me, I'm stealing my example because I've been to so many Star Wars conventions, but I always love when some cosplayer walks around as a Jar Jar Binks zombie. That's it. That does it for me. Yeah.
There's actually a long-running Marvel. Go ahead, Carrie.
I said instead of Darth Jar Jar, we have zombie Jar Jar.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a thing.
Dead Jar Jar.
There's actually a long-running Marvel comic book series called Marvel Zombies that's specifically about a zombie outbreak going through the Marvel universe and characters dying and becoming zombies. And that's an actually really cool story, because when you have superpowered characters become zombies, they become unstoppable killing machines. Like Galactus becomes a zombie. I mean, he was already eating planets, but he kind of became like the carrier for an entire superpowered army of zombies.
Nice.
Well, there's also the DC version of that, which is Deceased.
Yes, that too. Yep.
Well, as a way to wrap the show up, do you think character resurrections as a trope works in storytelling? Oh, you think it depends? What do you guys think?
I think it depends on how the resurrection is handled.
Yeah. Derek?
Yeah, it has to be done on a limited basis and with real consequences that last a long time. So, yeah, it's effective, but you can't overuse it or it becomes silly.
Yeah. I think it may outlive its purpose if it's is not done just right. Because you do want a lively story, right? Anyone? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes, Joel, yes.
Yes, Joel.
All right.
Yes, boss.
Any last thoughts before we shut the doors?
Nope.
Derek?
Nope.
And if you do have any last thoughts, well, hit us up on the social media, because this bar is, as I said before, is all about community. It's the show itself is released as a podcast and on YouTube. Subscribe today and check out our Discord. It's a great source of news and discussion. I generally, when I go through Twitter and I'm a news addict, I will post news stories that's relevant in terms of entertainment or space on the Discord. It's a great way just to find relevant news stories. Discussions, well, sometimes there's discussions, often it's not because people are busy. But again, it's free. Join a Discord server. You can find us the invite on our social media, which is, of course, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I do the Twitter and Instagram, and Derek does the Facebook. Hey, Derek, you're doing a great job with the Facebook page.
Roger.
And we are also on YouTube. You can see our talking heads. I generally upload the video on YouTube the day after the podcast comes out because it takes a lot of work to render the video and to upload it to YouTube. So there's that. Check it out. And if you want to email us, you can do so at management@scifipubcast.space. Carrie, what's your Twitter address?
My Twitter handle is Carrie Blackfire42. That's KERI Blackfire42.
And what other podcasts are you on?
I am on DC Talk, the Cape Chronicles, and Enter the Dojo.
And these are on
It was on the Random Chatter Network, and we just Enter the Dojo just dropped our episode on talking about Enter the Dragon. So
cool.
That was fun.
So that's a specific podcast on martial arts.
We're talking about martial arts and martial arts movies and TV shows.
Excellent, good. Yeah. It's making quite the impact, I'm sure. Yes,
very much so.
Derek, what's your Twitter address?
I'm at Derek J. Beebe.
Great. Anything new happening in terms of projects?
Nope, just still editing the old ones, and the rejection letters from the literary agents are slowly trickling in.
Keep it up. Don't give up. Don't let them win, okay? So, we have our other host, Renner Graham. He's not on this episode, but he generally pops in every second, third, fourth episode. He's the novelist and author of Before Life and Afterlife Crisis. So drink, as we said, before life. Mm-hmm. I can be found on Twitter at Joel, Joel _Welch, WELCH. And since I'm no longer working for the Canadian government, I can be more verbal and I actually have my voice back. I'm quite happy. So I can criticize anyone or anything I want. But I haven't because, I like to actually consider before opening up my mouth. But sometimes it doesn't work like that. I am trying. It's closing time. Please take care and make it home safely. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Music provided courtesy of Logan Rathbone. Podcast logo by Jea Rhea. Copyrighted Joe Welch. Listen responsibly. And we can't wait for your next visit to our fine establishment. Cheers.